My experience with Furious Flower has been over a number of years. I was first introduced to Furious Flower as an undergraduate student while studying at Howard University in my poetry class with Professor Tony Medina. I was so fortunate to be a part of the Furious Flower Legacy Seminar in 2019, where I met some amazing people who I continue to have relationships with, and where I met Dr. Gabin and Lauren Elaine, and so many people who continue to shape my life. And I am happy to be here now, helping out with this poetry syllabus project and thinking about the ways in which we are teaching poetry and making that available across institutions and in community spaces. On one hand, we are building the syllabus project. We are creating a resource, a tangible resource for students and for educators to be able to access, to be able to read Black poetry, familiarize themselves with Black poets and the history and the legacy of American letters, right? On the other hand, we are building a community, a network, a space for Black poetry to continue to not only exist, but to be celebrated, for us to understand the ways in which it serves our community intellectually, artistically, spiritually, and so forth. So while we are shaping this academic presence, we're also shaping the lives, right, of each other in the ways that we are engaging with this project and taking it home to our communities. I'm excited about working with some of the professors who raised me, schooled me, taught me, comforted me, and educated me with love. So that is what I'm first and foremost excited about. But also, given my experience as an educator, going from student to educator, even though I consider myself a lifelong student of Black literature and Black history, to be in a space where I have taught several classes, both in the university and also within high school settings. And now, as a graduate student, I have been doing some work in the carceral system. So what I'm excited about is being able to use the same access to resources that I have and begin to share it with the community outside of the university setting. And so that means introducing folks to Furious Flower and the legacy of Black poetry in spaces where poetry may not be taught as often as we engage with it in the classroom, and that Black poets, their names, their histories, what they've done for this country might not be openly expressed in the ways that we sometimes feel comfortable doing when we are in academic settings. I am working in the group that is designing community workshops and seminars, and that means strategically thinking about how we can engage with communities that may have not be the central focus in more traditional academic spaces. It's important because it's necessary. What we are doing is we are documenting the past while also engaging with it. And part of that means that we are acknowledging our being, right? Anyone who studies Black literary history knows the ways in which our being, our existence, our intellectual production, our creativity has been erased, right? Has been whitewashed, has been oftentimes siloed, right? From being the central focus and in the ways that we can humanize our experiences, that has been neglected. And so what we're doing here is we're affirming that. We're saying that Black folks been here, we've been creating, we've been writing, we've been in community, and we're doing that in such a way in which it's being documented. So there is this scholarship, right, that proves what we're doing on an intellectual level. But there's also this this social impetus, right? There's this gathering that's happening, and so we're celebrating that as well. And why does Furious Flower matter? Why does Black poetry matter? And why does poetry in general matter? And the answer is that it's the thing that keeps us alive, right? Poetry, and I remember writing this as I was filling out applications for graduate school, for example, right? And I recall writing that poetry is at the center of every social movement you can think of. And we're not just thinking about Black social movements or movements towards Black liberation, right? Although that is a central focus for many of us here, we're thinking about the ways in which poetry shapes the world, the way that we can articulate the communities that we come from, the way that we can articulate our way and our deservingness, right, to be able to present ourselves, right, because we live in an unjust world. And when we think about how it is we can represent not only those injustices, but continue to aspire to freedom, to hope, to give ourselves a reason to continue going forward and to experience the joy in all of that. That is what poetry does. That is what Black poetry does. That's damn sure what Furious Flower does.